Hey Alexander, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you joining us from?
Ah, I'm I I'm in Saint Petersburg, Russia.
Goodness, and what is that like right now? What is your environment like right now?
Environment. I'm in my studio. I was at work. I'm dirty hands.
Nice. Can you describe your art? What do you do?
Uh, for now, at the moment, I cast one sculpture in concrete, and still in molding in form, and I sculpting two clay sculptures, modeling two clay sculptures for exhibition maybe in future.
Your work is it's almost surreal, yes?
Surreal sometimes, more or less, because behind me it's a figurative sculpture. I'm looking for my language like this.
What do you look at for inspiration? What informs the type of language you create?
Um, it's difficult to say in one word. Actually, uh, I would like to make something. At first, it's a little bit aesthetic. It's
Sure.
aesthetic. Uh, so it should be aesthetical form, but with a meaning. Some sort of meaning, my own meaning, because I have a lot of stuff to say, but I'm now looking for proper language to express. It's
What
not simple maybe.
what's your first memory of art when you were a kid or an adult? What was that like?
Actually, my parents are sculptors, both of my parents, father and mother. So I grew up in this situation. I have a lot of books. I remember their studio. It was a small studio in downtown, and they always sculpt. This smells of clay, all this stuff. So I like grew up in this.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is the biggest impression of their work on you? Is there a connection, you think?
I think it is a connection. Um, um, I am very impressed. My father. It was the Soviet times, and it was a factory of sculpture. It's a real big factory which made huge sculptures for government purpose, and he made a huge bas relief. It's like about 15 meters long, and 5 meters high. And I was child. He took me just right to help him, but actually, what can I do? But it was impressive, the sculpture factory, and
Wow.
it was not about. Yeah, it was actually it was quite creative. It wasn't about just communist stuff. No, so they let people actually express themselves too, more or less.
It's a very different experience here in the United States because there is no real space for art as far as a job or part of our political imagery. It's for us. I think for the United States, art is still very mysterious. you know, so it's very exciting to hear that your parents had a very stable place to put their art, right? Because I think that's for Americans, that's our thing. We're
It was
constantly
before. It was before. It was before it. When Soviet Union collapsed, it was over also. Because now we have a, I guess, similar situation with you. And I don't, I can say it's bad. No, I think it's okay because maybe more freedom.
well, that's interesting. What did your parents do after the collapse? Did they continue making art? And what did that look like?
They continue to make smaller stuff and teaching. My mother still teaching in art school, and father is kind of retired, so giving advice like this. So
Nice. What's the biggest lesson that you can take away from having parents who are artists?
biggest lesson, actually, it's a lot of there. You know, there was and they are like my first teachers. So it is a lot of lessons. Well, I can remember the my father said that when you draw something, when I was a child, when you draw something, draw, I don't know, something, I draw something. And he said that you rather make it mm, curve or maybe not right, but bold, you know, brave. I mean, not try to make it right with a, you know, I would say with a shaking hand.
Oh,
I
nice.
want to make it right, but my hand is shaking. No, no, not to do this. Just make it bold. Let it be not right, but bold, like this.
That's good advice for life too, right?
Actually, not when you're driving a car.
Can I ask you about your material? Did you kind of discover the material with your parents, or did you explore new material later on in life?
Yeah, I'm exploring new material, and at first it is a wood. I discovered the wood for me, and I love it a lot. Wood, it's like my, my love because I can express right. Just take a material and direct carving, and I'm express myself. But sometimes, for now, I start to sculpt again because um, I want uh, research. I want to research something just to looking for maybe something new, new shapes, new forms, and that's why I sculpt now, and I'm trying to sculpt and cast in concrete, which is also new. Uh, yeah, new material for me also. I just trying today, second day.
Nice. It's really exciting to see your space, that you have a lot of space to kind of play around and create these amazing pieces that take space, because sculpture is about three-dimensional form, right? Um,
Yeah.
Being in St. Petersburg, how has that affected your work?
How is that affected? Or
Yeah, how does it
I just
influence? How does it influence your work? Do you think being a Russian
ah
artist in your language, in the type of art you create?
yeah, yeah, because Saint Petersburg it's have a strong traditions because it is a former capital of Russian Empire, and so here is a big history of art, and for sure it make an influence. I mean, how exactly? Maybe maybe 20th centuries last no like last century, and it was 20s, like 1920s. It was abstract art. Kandinsky, Malevich, all of those people worked in here, and if you still visit a Russian museum, we have this Russian museum, you have still see them like Black Square, for example, it is in here, so this make an effect.
It's interesting also that you have a connection to history that you can talk about and put in your artwork. When we talk about art history in the United States, it tends to stop in the 40s and the 20s, right? So it's an interesting conversation that you get to have with your identity as an artist, as a person from Russia. That's really interesting how that plays out. What is the ideal place for your work to live after it leaves your studio?
Well, I work for public art. Some of my sculptures are staying. I mean, stone sculpture, wood sculpture, placed on public spaces. But also, it is for maybe it's for apartment or maybe for public spaces, but inside, like how to say, some centers where people are working, maybe trade centers or something. My sculptures need a little bit more space because they're pretty big. So for smaller apartment, maybe it is too far big.
And do people
So
buy
maybe it
art?
is for.
Do people buy art in Russia? Is it part of the culture to buy art from artists?
Unfortunately, not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not. I make my living with commissions.
Fantastic.
Commissions. People may make commissions, and they, if they build something, they want to make something what they want, not what you want.
Sure.
You want. So we used to do this.
Can you tell me about the sculpture behind you? It's what I saw on Instagram that caught my eye, which is a male figure with a sphere on his hand, and it almost looks like the world. It could be a basketball. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it is this sculpture is about achievement. A person who want to achieve something. Maybe it is in sport. Maybe it is in space. Maybe he touching a moon, or planet, or something. Just about person who want to make his goal, achieve his goal.
That's very cool. It's such an interesting figure. Also, I saw that you had another one of a wing with a hand coming out of it. What was that made of?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. With a hand, which one?
It was a figure with a wing with an arm coming out of it. It was very abstract. It was on your. It was on your Instagram. It might be a little older, perhaps, but there was something very loose about it and very abstract. I'm wondering, when you create your sculptures, how do you go about creating the form? Is it something that you just draw, or do you have models, or is it something that just comes from your imagination, a concept?
It is from my imagination. I start to draw smaller drawings when I have some idea. Maybe some idea came from text. I hear some text, or I read some text, and I just thinking about it, and I remember it a lot of time. For example, I had a work which it is a sitting person behind the wall and a graffiti on the backside. It was inspired by, Michelangelo poetry, Night. It is sculpture Night, and he wrote a poem like "Don't wake me up like this." So I remember these words, and then I started to draw, and then I came to this composition. So it is a long story.
That's very nice. So you get inspired by literature. You put it into your work. What else goes into your work, you think, that influences you? Are you influenced by music, by landscape, by other artists, perhaps?
Landscapes, yes. Sometimes I even tried to sculpt landscapes. So landscapes maybe very interesting in sculpture, and I'm even engaged to take part in a big show in Russian Museum. Maybe next year's it will be. It calls Landscape in Sculpture.
Nice.
So I have a sculpture which was chosen for this, and they printing catalog, but when will be this show? I don't know, but maybe next year. So landscape sculpture and others, yeah, for sure. A lot of sculptors. I like a lot of sculptors in Instagram, for example. Also, I looking always looking what's new, and a lot of sculptors I found. And for example, this Mexican sculptor Javier Martin, if I spell
I'm not
right.
familiar.
He making big shows. Also, well, maybe I don't remember right now, but it is a lot of sculptors I found in Instagram, and for sure it's older classical sculpture also from Greece, you know, till and painting also painting, so impressionism, all the same.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like outside for you right now during this pandemic?
Yeah, it is pandemic, so I'm isolated, you know. I'm in studio.
Yeah.
Uh, I took I driving a bicycle today. I took a bicycle, which is also quite isolating. Well, but we have lockdown, yes. So we are all supposed to be at home, or at least not contact each other, and all public places are closed. All the same. Um, just people who, you know, need to go to work anyway, because what should they do? Uh, so that's me also, you know, I have to go to work.
So have you been able to stay creative and be in a good place in your mind to create work? Because I know sometimes it can be a scary moment and people get anxious. Do you find peace in your work?
Mm, I'm not that anxious actually, and you know, mm, yeah, we know all this news, but you know, people in here are not that believers, you know,
Huh.
and maybe a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit crazy, but people mostly calming down, because you know it's not so big number right now. Maybe that's why. Maybe it will be. Maybe we just have to wait for it. I don't want to, but I don't know what. But right now, people just thinking maybe it's more politic than real virus. You know?
Wow, that's so interesting because I'm in New York and it's a complete opposite. This is I can't leave my apartment without a mask. You know, like even if I'm going to go check my mail, I have to wear a mask. So it's interesting to hear how different the experiences are depending where you are. Even in the United States, if you're in Texas or in Los Angeles, it's a different experience than if you're in New York. New York is very scary right now. So in New York, or I talk about anxiety because in our American conversation, anxiety is a big presence. It's something we talk about a lot. Oh, I feel anxious. I feel anxious. So now that there's actually something to feel anxious about, um, I'm interested to see how people are coping. So it's great to hear that you're cool because you need to stay creative.
No, well, yeah. No, some people are really scared, you know, but not me. I don't know.
Well, I love that you're on your hammock, staying cool. Now, let me ask you,
Yeah.
what else are you doing to keep yourself motivated in quarantine? If you're still stuck at home, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to?
Well, when all this stuff quarantine just started, I was completely demotivated. It was you know, information. It was like apocalyptic something. I was demotivated and frustrated, and you know, I make sculptures, and I was thinking, who will need these sculptures anymore? You know, because everybody are staying home, and maybe digital art it is on the you know but not sculpture. Why sculpture? So I thought that maybe I should study something um, digital, and I start to research, but then I get a call from a museum, uh, another one museum local, and they said, uh, you know that we're planning an exhibition next autumn. So maybe you have some work, or maybe you can make some work for us. And it was motivated. It was motivating, because
Amazing.
I just I understand that somebody needed. Even it's not non-profit, just for art's sake, but it's still life still going on.
Absolutely. And I feel that sculpture in particular is stronger. I make collages, I paint. With time, with water, with fire, it disappears. You're working with really hardy material that will stand the test of time without much help. So yeah, please, you have to you have to make art. You have to leave proof that we were here. What do you want your proof of existence to be like? What sentiment, what ideas do you want your work to convey?
Mm, any other work convey different ideas. Uh, Actually, I want to bring something, very positive. It's just before I made some, surreal stuff, maybe something even spooky sometimes. But now I want to make something positive, because I realize that a lot of tough things in the world. That's why I made this guy with a ball. Just to motivate people, also motivate myself and motivate people. Just to show that um, everything might be good. Just uh, get some bright, light. I mean, in life, something like
Absolutely.
this.
I appreciate that totally. Now, let me ask you if when this is all over and someone sends you a ticket to go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
So many places I would like to go. Hmm. No, perhaps New York.
All right. Well, we'll wait for you here. Well, Alexander, thank you so much for connecting with me. Thank you so much for allowing us into your studio. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you, even for a few minutes, and learn about what you do. And I'm glad you're making art that's going to lift us up, because I think we need it right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much.